What's going on, y'all? Ray here with Second Chance Rising Studio 825, where it's not just about the music, but it's about the ministry. And guess what else it's about? It's about how-to videos. And today I'm bringing you one of our first series that we're doing, which is building a new studio desk. If you watch our Studio 825 YouTube video that we dropped here several weeks ago, I kind of was joking around and hinting around that we probably have to do another one in a year because I change it around so quick. Well, it didn't last very long. Now, the last studio desk that I built served me well here for this last 5 or 6 years. A couple of things that I didn't like about it. One, it didn't have a lot of storage under it, so I was using a sidecar. Also, the rack gear was straight up and down, so it was a little bit hard for me to read the knobs and where they were set, so that got kind of aggravating after a while. And then I didn't have a lot of writing space, and that was a big deal. When I was writing my music and doing music production, taking notes, I just didn't have enough room for my pad, my mouse, my pens. So I've kind of solved that problem with this desk. Now, I'm going to include some rough drawings in the description so you can use as a guide, maybe give you some ideas. Also a material list. We'll see kind of what this thing ends up costing at the end of the build. There are definitely some things that I could have done cheaper, but I kind of went the extra mile on some things. So I hope you enjoy this how-to. I hope it gives you some ideas for a do-it-yourself desk if this is a project that you've been planning on doing. Haven't found many of these on the internet, so hopefully you find this helpful. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think. God bless you. Keep looking up. Hope you enjoy this series. So yeah, we started off with a trip to the hardware store, 3/4 inch birch plywood. Could have went with some lesser routes with some MDF board, but I just chose to go with that. So you could save a few dollars there. And here I don't have a set of plans. I'm just kind of drawing this out for the legs. I kind of drew some rough sketches and some measurements that I wanted. You can kind of see there barely. Sorry about the video where I've got 2 or 3 different versions. So I'm just kind of trying to do some planning on paper before I cut. I'm actually cutting 2 or 3 times before I cut once. And then I'm just cutting these out. I actually cut 2 sections out at a time to try to hopefully kind of get them a little bit closer in size and parallel. And here I've got them, the 2 kind of screwed together. You can see there to kind of keep them in place. And now I'm going to draw out to do the other 2 on the other side to try to keep them somewhat symmetrical. And that angle and everything, I just kind of winged it, so to speak, of kind of what I wanted. I knew I wanted 12 inches on the top for the speakers and how much room I wanted for writing space, and kind of use that angle to kind of fill in. And here you can kind of see this is some 3/4 inch red oak wood, pretty expensive. Once again, I could have went a lesser route. I just kind of cut that to the same size of the legs. I'm going to sand that all together and kind of make that all blend together and keep it as one, but I just wanted a nice accent. I wanted this to be a pretty nice desk. So lots of different options. You could just go back with the birch plywood, which was still pretty nice there if you wanted to. You could use some pine, some finished pine. So lots of different things. Here I've got all 4 sections, legs cut out. Got the red oak applied to the top section right there on the outside. So you can see it's kind of doubled up. Then got the legs on the outside, so it's pretty stable. It'll stand pretty level as well. So it's kind of coming together pretty nicely. I'm just kind of trying to space things out, see how I want the center. Here I'm kind of laid a piece of 2-inch wood right up against the back, and I'm putting that down for some bracing. Everything I did here is I pre-drilled the holes, and then I'm going to screw that down. So I didn't want any splintering or any wood. And you can see the little small piece of 2-inch between the leg and the little strip that I put down, which is just kind of just a spacer of about 2 inches. I mean, that's not very important. I just kind of want it to look somewhat symmetrical. And later on, you'll kind of see how that back is going to be put together. So I'll have like a 19 by 19 square that'll just help brace that back and tie the 2 sides together. And I'm just kind of spacing that out with a piece of 3/4 to get it as close as I can, make it as nice as I can. And I'll try to do some rough drawings and put in here. So that'll be the brace right there that I'll screw the 19 by 19 roughly the size in later on in the back, and you'll see that. Here I'm just pre-drilling the holes once again. And luckily I put a piece of duct tape on there to gauge how far to drill the hole, so I wouldn't drill all the way through the other side. And then just putting the screws through. That was my little spacer that I had to kind of keep that somewhat symmetrical and even. So here it's kind of coming together. That's one side done. The birch plywood, once again, you didn't have to use that because that's the section I'm going to be painting anyhow. But I just felt it was more solid. And I didn't want to try to get some of one plywood, some of the finished plywood, and because I was able to use some pieces in between those little circles and cut. So I wouldn't have been able to do that with different kinds of plywood. So here I've got all the bracing for the back done for all sections, and I'm still a rookie at doing these videos. I got my phone straight up and down, but I'll get better at these. Here I'm just doing some sanding, some prep work. I've already did a good bit of sanding on it, and really the birch plywood really doesn't require a lot, but I'm just kind of cutting the edge down and just kind of rinsing and repeating here. And here I'm going to take off the plywood, getting ready for paint. Now I screwed this. This is something worth, I kind of planned out. The screws that are showing here from the outside actually face inside on the desk. And then I'll remove this piece, and you'll see in a minute, there's the piece on the outside that'll actually be showing that you can actually see, from the room. Those are screwed from the inside out. So you don't see any screw holes on the outside of the desk. So all those screws will be on the inside, so you don't see any screws on the outside. So don't have to worry about filling any holes in this piece of oak that I'll stain later. Just where I remove that leg, just kind of going over some of those rough edges. And here, just painting. I just bought a quart of flat black paint, the cheapest paint that they had. I actually went back later on, and I actually ended up using glossy paint. The flat black is closer to what you see coming, from the professionals, so to speak. But it just seemed like it didn't wipe off and clean up as well during even the construction process. So I just went back and came back later and got another quart of some glossy paint. I just thought it looked better. It kind of served as a primer. So after I got this painted, I also took the red oak and I laid those out, and I just used some gunstock Minwax stain and stain those, and that actually turned out. So it got a pretty good bit accomplished this first weekend. Got all the pieces cut out, some of them painted and stained for the most part. I had to run to the hardware store, pick up all the birch plywood, try to gather up everything that I thought that I needed. It's very difficult to do a project and only make one trip to the store. I've got some Formica ordered off of Amazon, and a couple other adjustable leg pieces that I'm going to use. So I've got that on the way. Should be here in just a few days. So I really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you like the build and what's going on. We'll be posting part 2 next week. So if you got any questions or comments, just leave them below, and I promise you I'm going to get a material list posted down there, and I'm going to do the best job I can to get you some kind of rough drawing if you decide to try to take on this project yourself. But you may be like me, you may want to kind of customize it as you go along too, but at least you'll get some ideas. Hey, appreciate you tuning in. God bless you. Keep looking up, and we'll see you next week.